everyone. I'm Katey Rich, and this is the Prestige Junkie Podcast. Today, you'll be hearing the audio from my first ever Substack Live, a real experiment. I was joined early Monday morning by Esther Zuckerman, a freelance critic and the author of the new book, Falling in Love at the Movies. We broke down this year's Golden Globes nominations moments after they were announced early on Monday. It was a huge morning for Emilia Perez, a puzzling one for films like Sing Sing, and then a big boost for the campaigns for a couple of titles like Challengers and The Substance. As usual, the Globes are unpredictable and fun, and we broke into all of that. Later in the episode, you'll hear my conversation with Marianne Jean-Baptiste. She was not Golden Globe nominated for her performance in Mike Leigh's Hard Truths, despite the fact that it's one of the year's very best performances and has won a bunch of critics' prizes already. That's one of a handful of baffling snubs that Esther and I will be discussing, because as you'll hear, the Golden Globes are fun to talk about, but can make some bad and baffling choices alongside the good ones. So first, you'll hear from me and Esther, then from Marianne Jean-Baptiste. So let's dive into those Golden Globe nominations. So we were talking before we had more technical difficulties about Mindy Kaling and Morris Chestnut as the announcers, who Morris Chestnut had some interesting pronunciation. I guess Mindy Kaling did too. When she mispronounced Luca Guadagnino's name, I had a moment of like, wow.
Here's my thing. If you're gonna announce, you should practice. Like, Morris Chestnut, like he knew that all the Shogun people were going to be nominated. You practice those things.
Even if they're not going to give you the names ahead of time, you can at least feel confident in some of those.
Yeah. I like, that is my big rule for people announcing award shows. That said, it is in the 5 a.m. hour in LA. So like, I do cut people a little bit of slack because it's so early there. I mean, like, I'm not fully articulated, and it's just because it's It's 8:50.
It's not even 9 a.m. on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's not even 9 a.m. on the East Coast. So it's like, I do cut people a little bit slack, but still.
I was thinking about Mindy Kaling being in full glam. She had like jewels on, and I was like, wow, it is 5:30 in the morning there. Yeah. Good job. That's always been the Globes, like, are the Globes a real award show? Open question. Like, is it make sense for anyone to be in formal wear at 5:30 in the morning in LA? Open question. It's all kind of part of the like pageantry of where it doesn't totally make sense.
Nothing makes sense about the Golden Globes, but some of the nominees, very fun. So,
Yes. Well, actually, now that we have a few people joining us and we're technically going, we should say, Esther, you're joining me not only because you know about awards, we talk about this stuff all the time, but you wrote a new book that we should promote before we get started called Falling in Love at the Movies. Anything you want to say about it before we get to the Globes, which people actually came here for?
Thank you for the little bit of promo. It is a very beautiful book that you can read and also have on your coffee table about, the history of rom-coms. It's published with Turner Classic Movies. It's got a lot of really beautiful photos and hopefully some fun, thoughts about rom-coms. So please buy it wherever you buy your books. It's available. And I appreciate that, Katey.
I would say that even though there's a comedy category at the Golden Globes, I don't think there's any rom-coms that we're dealing with here. Like, even the most generous
The only thing that I would sort of say as a rom-com is Hitman, starring Glenn Powell, who did get a very fun actor in a musical or comedy nomination. Honestly, I wish that...
just now realized it didn't get a comedy. The film
itself didn't get a comedy nomination. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know. And that is a rom-com, like, for 100%. Maybe you could argue Challengers is a rom-com in a way, but...
Yeah, I would argue. I mean, Honora on some levels also, but all of them just have so many other aspects to them that complicate the whole thing. Yeah. So maybe we'll just, honestly, I kind of want to start with musical or comedy, both because I think given the way that the films are this year, it was kind of more interesting, and it's unique to the Globe. So the musical or comedy Best Picture nominees: Honora, Challengers, Emilia Perez, A Real Pain, The Substance, and Wicked. I look at that and I'm like, oh, of course that's how it was going to turn out. I think there are surely snubs I'm not thinking of. I was so thrilled to see The Substance and Challengers both not just perform here, but perform in a lot of other places.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really fun category. I mean, like, I pretty much like all these movies.
Me too.
I know Emilia Perez has its haters. I know Wicked has its haters. I'm a big Wicked lover. I've seen it 3 times. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
That's a lot of like hours of your life. I just want to say
I know.
that.
I know. It's a lot. But I do think the funny thing is about is like, at least two of these movies like fully demolished me emotionally. Anora and A Real Pain, with like two of the like sort of most saddest final shots of the year. Basically, both of those movies end on like long takes on someone sort of considering where their life is, and it's not pretty.
But they also have some of the funniest sequences of any film I've seen all year.
Totally. Like the Anora like fight sequence with the goons.
Yeah.
It's so fun. A Real Pain has some incredible laugh out loud moments. So, they are comedies, but yeah.
Yeah, I would like Anora and A Real Pain, I feel like all kind of performed exactly as hoped. Like you got
Yeah.
nominations for Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin in that incredible Best Actor comedy category. We can talk about it.
Yes,
Michael
please.
Madison and Yor Borisov from Anora.
Yeah.
But Amelia Perez, we don't have the numbers in yet, but I think Amelia Perez has to be the most nominated of any of these films today.
I mean, nothing makes more sense for the Golden Globes. I mean, if anyone was going to love Amelia Perez, it was going to be the Golden Globes because,
Yes.
it is just French director making this sort of insane musical. It just felt so right that the Golden Globes would love it. I mean, like I went to sleep last night being like, let's get ready for all the Amelia Perez nominations.
If you're looking at the Critics Awards last week, you'd be like, oh God, Amelia Perez didn't get anything from New York Film Critics, anything from Los Angeles. I think even with the National Board of Review, like they maybe included it in one spot, but didn't go hard for it. And like it felt
I think National Board of Review had nothing for Netflix, right?
Oh God, yeah, I'd have to go back and look at it. But I think there was a sense being like, oh, what if all the like, internet backlash to Amelia Perez? And I think a lot of us were being like, wait for the Globes. Globes are coming. Like Amelia Perez is like, and like we all have this anecdotal evidence of people going to screenings of this movie and loving it. And I think the Globes is exactly the place where you would start seeing that evidence show up.
Exactly. I think there was this sort of feeling, oh, Netflix must be like super panicking post, which I'm pretty sure they probably were, following all the Critics Awards. But obviously this was like a huge win for them. That said, I think we can talk about like one of the big snubs was Danielle Dowd-Weiler in supporting actress. Piano Lesson, which was sort of their other big play, completely ignored by the Globes. It does feel a little bit like, in terms of if that studio is focusing on one movie, it's Amelia Perez rather than I do know anecdotally they've been doing a lot for Piano Lesson, but it does feel like Amelia Perez is sort of rising. Also, as you said sort of earlier when we were just chatting, gets into the Globes' routine problem with not acknowledging films about Black people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we want to jump straight into that, but Sing Sing, I think, really underperformed in these nominations. It didn't make it into the Best Picture Drama category, which maybe I'll just go ahead and list that. That was The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, which I didn't know if it was going to be a musical. Maybe we can talk about that. Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nickel Boys, and September 5.
That said,
go ahead.
I'm so happy. Well, I was just going to say, like, speaking about movies about Black life, like, I'm so happy that Nickel Boys got in. It is its only nomination in motion picture drama, but I was really worried that is, one of my favorite movies of the year. And I was really worried that was not going to show up anywhere here. And very happy that it showed up in that category.
Although maybe that's so like, we sit here and we stress about the Golden Globes while also being like, the Golden Globes they happen to be on television, they happen to be old. Like the Nickel Boys won a ton of Critics Awards last week. Yeah. But I do think you were right to worry. I think there's a momentum thing. Critics' Choice nominations are going to come later this week. So that will be like one more notch in the thing. But the Golden Globes, for better, for worse, have this role to play in perceived momentum for something. And I think Nickel Boys, even showing up in that one tiny way, is such a help for a movie that's so delicate and artful and like critically beloved, but maybe alienating the audiences. Like it helps them in that way.
Yeah, I mean, and somebody mentioned in the comments the other big snub that like hurts my heart too is Marianne Jean-Baptiste in actress drama, who had a huge for Hard Truths, who had a ton of I'm in New York Film Critics Circle. She won our award. She won the LA. She's she had a huge amount of momentum. With the Critics Awards, it makes sense on that the Globes, which love having celebrities come out and really famous people
Yeah.
would not necessarily go for, someone who is in a smaller Mike Leigh movie, but that does hurt my heart a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I should say she's the interview in the back half of this podcast episode that people are listening to. And she is fantastic. And also when I spoke to her, I realized that she's been working in Los Angeles for such a long time. Like she's British, but she moved to the US after Secrets and Lies. And so she's worked with a ton of people. She knows a ton of people. And to me, I think that bodes really well for both the Oscars and SAG. Is that like Golden Globes, like that's just not who these people are. They're not, if you've worked with everyone, that doesn't mean anything for the Golden Globes.
I feel pretty confident in predicting that Marianne is going to get the Oscar nomination. I feel like that feels like, obviously, it will have to lose some people, but, in these very competitive female categories, but I think she's going to get the Oscar nomination. I think that performance is undeniable.
I'm very hopeful. I feel too nervous to predict it confidently, but I'll also say in the Best Picture, in the Best Female Actor Motion Picture Drama category, Marianne very much should have been there, but they made room for Pamela Anderson, The Last Showgirl, which I'm just like, I love
so fun.
That story that's happening here.
I'm so happy for Pam.
Yes, happy for Pam. And then I'm really happy for Fernando Torres, and I'm Still Here, a movie we saw together in Toronto.
Yes.
She's phenomenal in that movie. It's a Brazilian film from Alice, and like it's felt very quiet this whole time. Best Actress is such a competitive category, but I was thrilled to see her get that boost here.
Yeah, I think that's really fun. I also love, I do think in a weird sort of, it's weird to say this like big name is hovering on the sidelines, but I do think Nicole Kidman for Baby Girl, like I would love to see that get an Oscar nomination. And I do think that this helps. And I do think that performance and that movie, which is so great, but also very risque, also very like might challenge some of the more prudish members of these organizations. Like it's fun to have her in there.
Like Baby Girl it goes a little further than Challengers.
Baby Girls goes way further than Challengers. What are you talking about? I mean, Kate, and then there's like Kate Winslet in Leigh, which is, I saw that movie in Toronto, not this year, the year before. And I did write a profile on her for Time, but I really did not expect to see her there. That said, she also got a nomination for The Regime and TV. They love Kate Winslet over at the Globes. I don't know. I don't see that making its way to the Oscars, but I have been noticing she's been doing a lot of work for it.
And do you know who's been there posting about her on her Instagram? Who do you think?
I mean, I saw she did an event with Anna Wintour.
She did. Frances Fisher is the one who I've got my eye on. She's back.
She's back. Hey,
the leader of the Two Leslie campaign. Frances Fisher is back out there. And she posted a picture of herself with Kate and Leonardo DiCaprio at a screening of Leigh from a couple weeks ago. So like that is keep an eye out for Kate Winslet in Leigh. I just gotta say, anyone who like thinks they don't need to see it. Yeah,
I do think it's like bubbling up there. I don't know. What should we talk about next?
Well, let's stick with actors for a little while. We can get into the men in the lead categories. As we hinted at earlier, the best actor in a musical or comedy category is just really fun. I think I would venture to say none of those people are going to get into the best actor Oscar category. It's Jesse Eisenberg for Real Pain. He's also the film's writer and director. I think he's going to get nominated for that movie somewhere.
He'll get a screenplay nom and probably a screenplay win.
That would be my guess. Hugh Grant for Heretic, which I did not know was a comedy until today.
He's funny in it, though.
He is. He's really funny in it. He's been so good on this entire campaign stuff. He was great at the Governor's Awards. Like, I was thrilled by that. Gabriel LaBelle for Saturday Night. Great in that movie. That movie is not really going anywhere else, I don't think. Jesse Plemons, Best Actor winner for Kinds of Kindness. Gets in here.
Love that. I love Jesse's performance in that movie.
Yes. Glenn Powell for Hitman, as we said. And then the first of two nominations for Sebastian Stan. This one for A Different Man. He also got in for The Apprentice over in drama. Big morning for Sebastian Stan. I'm thrilled for him.
Well, I do think we have to talk a little bit about The Apprentice, too, because there was very much a feeling that that movie was DOA, especially post Trump's win. Like, is anyone going to want to watch that movie? Anyone going to want to like vote for that movie? And obviously the Globes, giving Sebastian a nom. They also gave Jeremy Strong a nom in supporting, and I do think like, obviously if that's a movie is going to go anywhere, it is completely going to go in acting categories. But like, it almost felt like they were, there's a Globes thing. Obviously they're not, Americans who or they are I don't know. They're the foreign press, whatever. They're international.
They maybe are less bothered by
the Golden Globes anymore.
Are.
I don't even know. They're not the Hollywood. Whatever. Now I'm confused. I've gotten myself into a whole.
They are still primarily international journalists, but a lot of them do live in Los Angeles.
It did feel. My point was, it does feel sort of pointed that The Apprentice is showing up here.
Yes. I would agree with that. I don't know what to make of it Oscar-wise either, or if this is the last stand. Because again, like they're dividing these, lead actor categories into two, which makes room for people like Jesse Plemons. God bless him. Delighted to see him.
And I do think like in supporting actor where Jeremy shows up, first of all, there's 6 nominees here, which is like
Critics'
one
Choice
more.
is about to do the same thing in a few days, so just get ready. It's going to come again.
Yeah, there's 6 nominees here, so invariably somebody's going to drop off. I think in terms of the Oscars, like we definitely see Yura Borisov. We definitely see Kieran Culkin. I think we definitely see Guy Pearce.
Yeah,
and honestly, like I think Edward Norton is phenomenal and a complete unknown, and that is going to keep chugging along. It'll be interesting to see. I think when Gladiator 2 sort of premiered, it felt like Denzel was like a no-brainer, and he is so fun in that movie. But that movie has like sort of shrunk a little bit in like the Wicked moment. Like it doesn't feel. I do think we're going to see Clarence Macklin from Sing Sing in the future in Critics' Choice, in the Oscars. Like I think this is where the fact that Sing Sing, the Globes didn't really respond to Sing Sing is going to, change things down the road.
Which is, again, not like surprising given what we know about the history of the Globes. And not even the like scandal from a few years ago about the lack of Black members, but just like starry big movies do like Wicked was always going to do well. Like even The Substance, honestly, is like so like big and over the top. Like that was always going to be more of a Globes movie than Sing Sing.
Yeah, and it's like, the fact that, we have like the Pam Anderson, we have the Demi Moore, I think they're all
and Ariana in supporting actress.
Yeah.
That's going to be is Taylor going to come again? Do you think she'll just like come and like whisper with Selena Gomez again at the Golden Globes just to make us all happy?
I don't know. That'd be fun. I mean, I gotta say, for my personal reasons, stay tuned. I have a piece that's coming that's about Selena, the warring that's happening between Selena Gomez and Ariana Grande fans who are just realizing what award season is. Yeah. So I was, in my mind, for the purpose of writing that story, sort of happy that they both got it to watch that unfold.
I'm going to get into male actor in a drama and then maybe throw out a theory. So male actor drama, we got Adrian Brody, The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet, A Complete Unknown, Daniel Craig for Queer. He is hanging in there. Speaking of people who've like just been having fun on their awards campaign, like he's been doing it.
Yeah.
Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing. I mean, that would have been like, thank God. Like, that would have been a really terrible
100%.
look for them. Ray Fiennes for Conclave, and then Sebastian Stan again for The Apprentice. Yeah. So here's a theory I'm going to throw out. I think we've all been operating on this idea that there are 4 like pretty near locks for Best Actor: Ray Fiennes, Coleman Domingo, Adrian Brody, and Timothée Chalamet. And then this kind of mystery 5th slot that no one's been totally sure. Like Daniel Craig's certainly been discussed in the mix for that. I'm wondering if Sebastian Stan is this year's Paul Mescal in Aftersun, and if a different man just keeps building and keeps going, and then that's who we see pop in that 5th slot.
I mean, I would love that. I love A Different Man. I think it is sort of one of the most underrated movies of the year. I have been very pleased to see how it's sort of, it felt almost like that release was sort of that was too quiet.
It happened like September, right? Like it barely even happened.
Around early September, like around the sort of like fall festivals. So the fact that it came out at Sundance and is coming out and then was premiering in the early September felt like it was drowned out by the festival titles that were sort of bubbling up. I do think I actually think he's quite good in The Apprentice, but I think A Different Man is his like best performance of the year.
And it's a better movie.
And it's a better movie. But I also do wonder if some of the Apprentice stuff is like would help him down the road too. Just the fact that like, you know, the variety actors on actors saying the fact that like no one wanted to talk with he sort of got it cut out of that because no one wanted to talk about Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that would be really fun, and I think that would be really cool if he snuck in for a different man. I would be pretty sure. I don't know.
Yeah, who do you think's gonna do it instead? It sounds like you want to throw out somebody else.
No, because you already said Ralph Fiennes, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be like Ralph is getting in there.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. I do think Daniel Craig in Queer is holding on more than I expected him to.
Same. Absolutely.
I think Queer is a challenging movie. It is not my favorite Luca Guadagnino movie of the year. That would be and Justin Kurtzky's like that would be Challengers. But I do think he has like a lot of strong support. He got the NBR. Which again, like the Globes doesn't really like the voting doesn't line up, but I do think that momentum helps him, and he is having even though that movie is so challenging in a way, not Challengers, challenging. In a way, I do think that his performance, his press tour and the way he's sort of like navigating the post-Bond, this is the stuff I used to do, stuff is really helping him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like the Knives Out movies were such a great showcase for him, and they never got as far with Oscars. I wanted them to. I guess Queer is a more like quote unquote serious movie, so maybe that helps it there.
I do think so too.
It is interesting that these nominations, just to dive way back down the list, that, you know, Challengers and Queer have so much of the same crafts team, including Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, doing pretty great scores for both of them, I would say. Yeah. But it seems like the Challengers score and also the song, both emerged, which is so.
I'm so obsessed with that Challenger song because it's literally it's just the lyrics. I'm pretty sure are just Trent Reznor being like, compress, repress.
It's a banger. You can play it in the club.
Such a banger. I'm so happy. I don't know. Yeah. I do hope that maybe there's some universe where the Globe's love for Challengers bumps it back up again. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Zendaya getting in there for Challengers. I was so happy to see that.
I mean, it is interesting because I do think like lead actress, musical or comedy, like maybe has more of the people that we're going to see in the Oscars than lead actress drama, because it's like we're definitely going to see Mikey. I think we're definitely going to see Carla. I think we're almost definitely going to see Cynthia, who Morris Chestnut botched the pronunciation of her name. Did
he really?
Yeah, he said a review or something.
Oh, doesn't he know she's the most famous person on the planet right now?
I don't know. I was like, come on, dude. That one, I was like, come on, dude. I do think those people are those women are all getting in there. I mean, I don't know. Maybe correct me if you think I'm off.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I've been wondering about Carla in that moment of Amelia Perez wobbliness last week, but I do think that if the Oscars go for this movie the way that we think that they will, she's at the
She also won the European Film Award, I'm pretty sure. And Amelia Perez sort of cleaned up there, which I think, we can't discount the international body of the Oscars voters, which obviously there isn't an international winners voters here, but the international actor craftsman contingent that's at the Oscars is huge. And so the fact that Amelia Perez was there,
Yeah, I mean, it just really hammers home that the lead actress categories are so insanely crowded this year. There's just no...
And honestly, I wonder if it's I think for such a long time we thought Angelina was a sure thing in Marianne. I don't even, and I don't know at this point,
No, I have no idea what to make of it.
I wonder if in my mind, maybe it's those three and then Nicole and then Marianne.
No, I think that's more or less where I've been landing. But Kate Winslet hanging around there, Angelina hanging around there, Fernanda Torres, who knows? That Marion Cotillard nomination from however long ago for 2 Days One Night. You never know.
Yeah. I do think Fernanda Torres is incredible.
Yeah, she's incredible in that. Yeah, and like supporting actress, meanwhile, is kind of so wobbly that like Isabella Rossellini in her one scene in Conclave, God love her, is like still hanging in
Yeah.
there. Margaret Qualley getting in for The Substance, extremely cool. All that's happening at the expense of Danielle Deadweiler is the bummer, but like that category is still kind of all over the place.
That category does feel all over the place. I mean, if I had to pick from this and Oscars right now, I mean, I definitely think Ariana is getting in there.
Yeah.
I definitely think Zoe is getting in there. I do think Isabella Rossellini is getting in there. Like, I do too. I mean, people love Conclave, and she does have that sort of quiet mic drop sequence.
Yeah, and she's a legacy. You like, what do we learn from Jamie Lee Curtis? If not that, like the Hollywood nepo babies from like the mid-century, we want them back in the fold.
Yes. And then like those
Felicity
are the
Jones,
three that
I think
feel
is getting in.
Which one?
I think Felicity Jones is getting in. I think The Brutalist is just like stage strong this entire past week.
And I think her, I do think Felicity's performance is incredible in that film, and I think
she gets like the second half of that movie is intentionally trying to bum you out, and she gets blamed for it because her character kind of comes in as like a literal buzzkill, and that's the point, and she gets blamed for it. And I think The Brutalist.
And then like I don't know, do we get our pop star matchup again? If
Selena Gomez gets in.
Yeah, if Selena Gomez gets in. I mean, I think we've been discounting the Oscars love, like The Substance hitting at the Oscars. But maybe the Oscars will hit
back and forth on it forever. Like when I was on the Big Picture a couple weeks ago, like I argued for it to be the 10th Best Picture slot. Like I think that's possible.
Maybe.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we quickly talk about director here too? Because I think that's a good like segue. Because like, I mean, I was extremely excited, like that Coralie Farge and Payal Kapadia got in for Best Director here, which is really fun,
really cool. Because like we have been kind of bracing ourselves for an all-male director lineup like for months. It just like seemed like it was going to go that way.
Yeah.
But like Coralie, the Substance is the one that I think we most thought might be able to break in there. But All We Imagine Is Light, I think, has won like all of the Critics International prizes for the past week. Like it's been part of that like Amanda Perez slump that we've been perceiving. And like that director branch and the Academy especially, like they like to go international and arty, and that movie is right there.
Yeah, they do. I mean, like, I don't know, somebody just commented like Coralie getting that director nom IMO on our little Substack live. And I do think that like I do wonder though if they're gonna give one in, it goes to Coralie, like
The Substance is a phenomenon in this way that like is worth recognizing.
The Substance is like, it is crazy that like, first of all, that movie did so well at the box office, like for for what it was. It has really been hanging on. So I wonder if that happens. The rest, like, I do think audio art is getting that nomination. Sean Baker, definitely. I think Berger, pretty much. And I think Brady. I think those four feel pretty set for the Oscars. And then there's that fifth slot. And like, I don't know, maybe they're going to go for John Chu.
They could.
No, I mean, I think that's like a totally like.
Yeah, they absolutely could.
Somebody said, is it over for Villeneuve? And I do think it's over for.
It's weird that Denis Villeneuve, like I guess he's going to make a third Dune at some point, but it's weird that he's just going to keep getting ignored for those like enormous accomplishments of those movies.
Insane. Like, yeah, I think it is probably over for him, and I think that sort of sucks.
Yeah, I mean, like Dune 2 getting in at the Globes over Gladiator 2, like that suggests that like if you're going to pick your like big blockbuster, maybe people will go for Dune 2. But again,
I do think Dune 2 is going to get the Best Picture nom, but I don't think Denis is going to get a director nom.
I wonder if Wicked gets the like one blockbuster slot in the Best Picture noms, and it goes.
I think they're probably room for two.
Okay. I need to go look at the list again. Honestly,
I think Wicked is definitely getting a Best Picture nom.
Yes, I think 100%.
So too. But I do think, you look at the AFI list, and I think both of those, the AFI top 10, and I think both of those landed on there, and that felt like a very possible.
That's a good point.
10 Best Picture lineup.
Can we talk briefly about television, which I know is not the thing that like you're most focused on
that
this
we
time
care
of year.
about. No, just kidding. I care about TV. I write about it.
We got this. We got SAG coming up. Like it's a TV FYC season again. And it is interesting. Like obviously Shogun, The Bear, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like Slow Horses, like all these shows that we saw at the Emmys earlier this year. But there was a couple of new shows that Day of the Jackal did really well, showing up in limited series. I was thrilled to see Keira Knightley get in for Black Doves, which is the show that I've just been like watching for fun and have loved.
I know. I need to watch it. I hear it's so fun.
It is a delight and like violent, but like also a delight. The Penguin, same. I thought Kristen Milioti was amazing on that show. Anything else from the new TV shows that you are seeing that's intriguing?
I mean, well, it's interesting. Like, none of us have seen the new season of Squid Game yet, but like Squid Game got a TV drama, which does feel like SAG loved the first season. The Emmys loved that first season. So for the second season, that makes sense. My personal enemy, Nobody Wants This.
You want to keep that feud going? You want to? I don't like. What kind of feedback did you? Because like Nobody Wants This has been such like an escapist favorite, and you're the one being like, actually, you guys.
I wrote a very. You guys can look it up. I wrote a very strongly worded piece in Time about how I thought Nobody Wants This really hated Jewish women, and I have actually. It's like the piece I've written this year that the most people have come up to me being like, even people who loved the show and like. Sort of gobbled up being like, wait, you were actually right. So like I do feel a little bit vindicated there, but I do think that show is, probably going to do well with the rest of the comedy categories.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, and also it's
justice for somebody somewhere.
I know. Well, that's like the eternal thing, right? Of justice for somebody somewhere. Like it's a eternal underdog.
Yeah.
I think Nobody Wants This is getting a second season, so maybe they'll be you'll see the fruits of your labor in what they do in the second season.
I mean, I don't know, the other one, Billy Bob Thornton for Landman, just sort of popping in there, and then Jake Gyllenhaal for Presumed Innocent.
I like that. I liked Presumed Innocent.
I like that. And Redmayne for Day of the Jackal getting in there, like all of those sort of the new shows that I do think we could see popping up in SAG and then the Emmys down the line.
There's always the funny thing where they lump together all the supporting categories in television. So you've got like Tadanobu Asano for Shogun up against Eben Moss-Bachrach for The Bear. Like performances that could not be less related on any level.
And Harrison Ford in Shrinking. Like, I know.
I have no idea how you're supposed to choose from among those.
And then there's like starry people that are popping, like Cate Blanchett in Disclaimer, which I feel like everyone sort of, ended up not really liking that show. But she's going to get in. Kate Winslet in The Regime, Making a Last Stand.
Just when you thought that show was done, having that and The Diplomat in there at the same time is funny. Maybe before we get close to wrapped up, what do we want to say about the cinematic and box office achievement category that I absolutely forgot existed until today?
Me too. Interesting that no Moana 2, which I do think is actually, shout out to my partner who was watching the nominations in the room. I heard him laugh behind me. So like he's giving me credit. Well, no, I mean like it is a weird cinematic and box office achievement, and that was supposed to be a streaming show, and they put it on. They put it on screens and it made so much money.
I wonder if there's something about it being so recent as a hit. Like Wicked and Gladiator 2 came out a week earlier. So like I don't know when their voting ended. Like I wonder if that's part of it.
But also no Dune Part 2.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, like I don't know.
I don't know. This category makes no sense.
No.
So like I don't know how to read any of that, but it does feel interesting though that like even in a stupid category, Dune Part 2 is not like making a show for like box office, which maybe signals something about like how people sort of forgot about it.
Mm-hmm. The thing that I noticed when they were reading them out loud is that the last three, you've got Twisters, Wicked, and The Wild Robot are all Universal releases.
Universal, huge year.
Yeah. They were reading out the studios. So I think if you're watching it from like a studio drama point of view, let's see, Alien Romulus, Deadpool, and Inside Out 2 were Disney. Gladiator 2 is Paramount, and Beetlejuice is Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So yeah, and streaming shows streaming movies I think are eligible for this technically. So I made a joke, but like that, like Hot Frosty could show up in there. But there is at least something like, we're not in an Oppenheimer Barbie year. So like having a space to be like, all right, these are the movies that people really ran out to go see. Obviously, Wicked's going to carry a lot of the energy for that. So I don't know. Let the Globes be the Globes, I guess.
Yeah. Anything else we want to shout out?
Has anyone asked us any questions that we should answer before we wrap it up?
I saw Miles, shout out Miles McNutt,
Miles.
English teacher, snub is interesting. Yeah, English teacher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Somebody said, how in the hell was Squid Game nominated? Presumably screeners. They got screeners out too.
Well, and like I think I said before we started, like A Complete Unknown also isn't out yet. So like,
the Squid Game will. It's sort of just so unusual for TV awards to have that because usually everything's out by the time. But that show will be out by the time the awards happen. Saoirse double snub. Somebody commented.
We didn't talk about Blitz.
Blitz totally was Blitz. I don't know.
I love Blitz. Like Blitz is going in my top 10. Like I understand that not everyone responded to it the way that I did, but like it's gonna bum me out that like
I do think it's not gonna. I do think Blitz is sort of done. I do think the Saoirse thing is interesting because I do think there was a period like we were talking around when we were in Toronto and right after Telluride that it seemed like Saoirse's like campaign for the Outrun was really strong. And now I really like
the Outrun too. I really thought. I mean,
it's a little colder on Outrun, but
it's a cold movie. It is
a cold movie. The Orkneys seem very cold.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's such a crowded Best Actress year that like that's the kind of thing that in a smaller year you could see get in, but like there's just too much to choose from for there to be room for the Outrun.
Yeah. Kathy Bates for Matlock. Love that.
I love that too. I watched one episode of Matlock. Like this is the thing with like new TV shows where I'm like, all right, I need to just like have the gist of it and then I can go. I would love to revisit Matlock.
Elspeth routinely snubbed. Shout out. I don't know.
All right. Here, I was circling back to Amelia Perez, which I think the numbers came out. I got 10 nominations, which is just like with the Golden Globes, because there's so few categories, like you can't really do that unless you're also eligible in animated or international and gets 2 song nominations. Like Amelia Perez really ran the table in every way. But the best original song category is like a perpetual fascination of mine. I love that the Miley Cyrus song from The Last Showgirl made it in.
Like so good though.
It's a really good song.
It's a really great Miley song.
There's 2 Amelia Perez songs in there. There's a Better Man song. God love Better Man. I'm big fan. Diane Warren's song from the 688 is not in here. I don't know. I actually don't know. I mean, she's an Oscar stalwart. I don't know her history with the Globes if like they don't tend to go for her in the same way.
No.
But yeah, I just don't know what to make of that category.
Let's make it happen. Love. Also, Luca has a songwriting credit on Compress Repress, so I don't really know.
He just said the word.
What do you think? I think I would think. I mean, I think one of the Amelia Perez songs is winning. I would vote for El Mal.
All right, El Mal, is that the one Zoe sings at the banquet?
That's the banquet one, and Mi Camino is the one that Selena sings. Yeah, is the one is a sort of like karaoke song.
Yeah,
which I would go for El Mal.
I would too. El Mal is kind of the best like showman because those songs in Amelia Perez are not traditional musical theater in like any way, and like that's kind of the most like showstoppery part. And like Zoe, I still like. Honestly, if you made me pick a Best Supporting Actress like winner, I'd still think I would pick her. Like I think she's excellent in Amelia Perez, and that's such a great showcase for her. I also really like the Wild Robot song that Maren Morris did. Like it's such a great moment in the movie. It's so embedded into it.
Like we disagree with that because I think it's my sort of my like least favorite moment in that movie, which I love.
Oh no. She just wants her son to fly, Esther. Why would you be mad at that?
She wants her to fly, but I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think the score of Wild Robot is so beautiful that when a sort of like pop song comes in, I was like a little bit discombobulated. If that makes sense.
I just went up to double check that it made it in for score, which I hadn't. Yes, it did. Thank God.
Hard for Bright Bill, though. Hard for Bright Bill. Katey and I are #1 Bright Bill fans.
I absolutely sticking with Bright Bill. Yeah, the best original song is like eternally hard to know what to make of. So it's the fact that Wicked doesn't have an original song, like it's such a musical powerhouse in this race and doesn't have one is so strange. Like I will never.
I think that's awesome. I actually sort of love. I love that they didn't. I know part 2 is going to have 2 new songs at least. I sort of love that they didn't shoehorn a shitty song into...
What if they shoehorned in a good song?
I mean, I think for what that movie, like, being a Wicked fanatic, I do think that, like, they clearly had an idea of where the song should go in the second half because they decided to do this. And I think it was very smart that they weren't like, oh, we're gonna like write, like, I don't know, because one of my pet peeves is like one of those is like whenever you have an adaptation of a pre-existing like musical and Andrew Lloyd Webber like poops out some like,
well, it's like the
like that
one
Evie,
in the
that
live action
song.
the live action Beauty and the Beast song, I feel like is like the ultimate example.
My God. Yeah, like all of those live action, you know, the added songs, maybe save for Lion King, which had the like Black is King, like the Beyonce stuff, like, you know, all of those are sort of shitty. I do
R.I.P. Taylor's Oscar nomination for Beautiful Ghost from Cats. It's we tried.
Yes, exactly. That one's perfect. Yeah, so like I don't know. I am interested. I think score is like a super fun category. I mean, like, I don't know. 2 of those scores are some of my favorite pieces of music, like movie music in like
which ones?
Years. Challengers and Brutalist, I think are like.
Yeah. Later today, I'm running the interview I did with Daniel Blumberg and Brady Corbet about the Brutalist score. And like, I was like trying to write about it, like what he does with that, like the way that people are like playing the strings inside a piano with bouncy balls to create some of the sounds in that score. Like it's incredible. And like that like main theme of that movie, like will stick with you. It's so good. I really
it like gets under your bones, and the way it's utilized is like so good. Like as it, in the opening sequence, it's just like, it is like, oh, this is monumental piece of like music.
Monumental.
Music.
That's
monumental.
Look,
and then Challengers played at the club.
I mean, I'm gonna play Challengers to try to finish writing up my Daniel Blumberg interview like right now. Okay, so to wrap it up, like I think the Globes have been back like for a while now. Like they kind of had this whole regrouping. Like they have a new TV deal on CBS, but they're still on a major network. I think all of these people are going to show up. Like it's going to be like a big starry event, which is like exactly the point of the whole thing.
And I also think Nikki Glaser is maybe going to kill it. Yeah.
I think like she's a great host for this room.
She's a really great host for this room. She obviously had a huge year in the Tom Brady roast.
And she's a nominee for Best Stand-Up.
And she's a nominee for Best Stand-Up. I do think she's really funny. She seems like she seems like the type of person who knows how to hit like the right notes.
Yes. She's just famous enough to get away with being a good Golden Globes host.
Exactly. So like, I don't know. I'm excited for the show. I always love the Golden Globes in all their...
It's just, even if we don't have to take any of their picks as gospel, even if none of these people are Oscar voters, like there's so many caveats with the Golden Globes, but like the what they managed to bring together and just like that tiny little bit of chaos to make it fun is kind of unmatched. It's worth doing.
Totally.
So we'll be watching the Globes. Again, Critics' Choice nominations are coming later this week, so we'll have like one last batch of buzz before everybody takes a break for the holidays. So then, Esther, thank you for joining me. People should buy your book.
Buy my book.
Yeah, and you'll, I'm sure, be back on the podcast eventually soon. Anything else you want to plug before we wrap it up?
No, mostly my book. Read my writing everywhere. I'm all over the place, but by falling in love with the movies. That's my main plug. Thank you.
Yeah, and for anyone listening live, this will be on the podcast coming out this week, so you can re-listen to anything that you might have missed. Thank you for joining this experiment. I think it worked out well. Please send us feedback. Find me on Blue Sky or Katey@theankler.com. Tell us if you like this. We might do more of them. And everyone go enjoy listening to the Challenger soundtrack while you work today.
Thank you.
Bye. When I spoke to Marianne Jean-Baptiste last week, it was less than an hour after she'd been announced as the Best Actress winner from the New York Film Critics Circle. That's a really major win, and especially for a film like Hard Truths, a real David in an award season full of Goliaths. It's directed by Mike Leigh, who directed Jean-Baptiste to her first Oscar nomination for Secrets and Lies back in 1996. And Mike Leigh has been really open about the fact that it wasn't easy to get funding for Hard Truths and wasn't even easy to get it into film festivals, even though it's been a huge festival hit since it premiered at Toronto earlier this year. Hard Truths is a really small-scale story about an extended family in London, and particularly about Jean-Baptiste's character Pansy. She's a woman who manages to pick a fight with basically everyone she interacts with in a day, and that includes her husband and her son. Pansy's tirades are really, really funny, especially the way that Jean-Baptiste performs them. But when you see Hard Truths with the crowd, like I did, you hear the laughter kind of slowly quiet down as the pain behind all of this is revealed and how much Pansy wants to be able to connect with people, even if her first impulse is just to yell at them. And Mike Leigh is the film's screenwriter, but he has a really specific process for devising characters and plots alongside his actors, which means that Jean-Baptiste and the rest of the cast played a major role in developing their characters and the world of Hard Truths. I talked to her about that process, about what she learned from working with Mike Leigh both in the 90s and this time around, and how she takes that with her when she takes on more traditional TV roles in LA, which is where she's lived for the last 20 or so years. You can hear it all in my conversation with the winner of the New York Film Critics Circle Award for Best Actress and the star of Hard Truths, Marianne Jean-Baptiste. Well, Marianne, first to start with, a huge congratulations on winning Best Actress from the New York Film Critics Circle about an hour ago as we're speaking. It's very exciting to get to talk to you in this moment. I don't know how you're feeling. That feels pretty major.
I was leaving my hotel room to come up here to do these interviews, and my manager told me, and she was crying so much that I was like, huh? What?
Did that help you realize that it was a big deal, that her crying?
A big deal. Yeah. She's been working very hard, and
that's great.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, you had talked about the Toronto premiere of Hard Truths, which is where I got to see it, and how you didn't really know what the movie was going to look like before seeing it there, because that's how the process works. And it was, I think you used the word traumatic watching it and being back in that place as Pansy. And then it ended with a standing ovation for you, and you walked out on stage and kind of met this first round of acclaim. What was that like for you, going through seeing it for the first time and then being met with that kind of applause?
Well, I'd actually seen it before.
Oh, okay.
Toronto. And that's when I had that kind of triggering kind of trauma. I was just very anxious for her. I kept thinking someone's going to hit this woman. Although I know they don't because I was there. But you just felt like, ugh. And then in Toronto, actually, with all the laughter, and then when it went really quiet, I just felt very, very emotional.
Yeah. I think a lot of people did.
Yeah. You could feel it in the room. Mm-hmm. And then to go up and get a standing ovation was just very overwhelming.
Was it like all that emotion was just being directed at you in that moment? Everyone's feelings.
Yeah.
Well, you've been going to various festivals for this film and these awards events, but are people giving you those emotions when they talk to you? Do people want to share their stories with you after they see this film?
Yeah, they do. A lot of mother-in-laws have reported pansies.
Huh. Oh, I see. They want to tell you about the pansies in their lives.
And their aunts and stuff. And, you know, they really want to be able to connect with the person again. It gives them pause. It gives them a bit of compassion.
So there's catharsis that they feel for the pansies in their lives, even if this film's Pansy, we don't really know how she turns out in the end.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about the way that you talk about the process with Mike Leigh, and that it's not just that you guys get together and you're inventing these characters, but you're asked to draw on people in your own life. You come in, you think of people who you might want to capture in some way. And I wonder when you're in that process, if you walk out the door and look at people in the store in a different way, if it makes you operate in the world in a different way when you know you're creating something in a process like this and drawing on your own life for that.
Yeah, I think you've just got a heightened sense of awareness of people. I mean, Mike Leigh loves characters. He loves human beings and watching them. And I remember the first time I worked with him, he said to me, always seek the particular. When you're out there, always just like look at the little detail, the way that person's holding that umbrella, you know, all the idiosyncrasies that make people different and interesting. And I think when you're working with him, that's like firing the whole time, you know, which was when he sort of suggested that I very, very, very lightly go into character as Pansy and just do my shopping or just observe what's going on. I mean, obviously, it would be very irresponsible of him to say, oh, go out and be in character.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Knowing what she was like.
No, we don't want you to get hit the way that you thought people would hit her in the movie.
There may be some arrests. You know? But that was when her thought pattern started to build of how she sees the world, all the little observations that we take for granted, things that don't matter or things that are cute or funny. How does she see it? Do you know?
What does that mean for you to go lightly into character? Because I didn't know if that was something you could do halfway, you know?
Yeah, you can. You can kind of go in by degrees and just sort of like start that thought process going.
Yeah.
The list of things she doesn't like, the intrusive thoughts, let them start to come in.
When you had talked about the start of this process with Mike this time, is not that it was that he called you up and said, do you want to work together? That it was an ongoing conversation. And you live in different places. He's in the UK, you're in LA. So you've been physically apart. But what is that ongoing conversation like? Do you call each other on your birthdays? Do you talk about movies that you've seen? Like how has that relationship been then leading to this point?
Well, basically, it's like whenever I'm back in London, I go and have a cup of tea with him. We talk about books. What are you reading at the moment? What have you seen? I'm always wondering about what plays are on in London, what I've missed and stuff. Because he loves the theatre as well. Yeah, so they're just, how are the kids?
Yeah.
You know?
So it's something that you always knew on some level you could work together, but it's never been a focus. It's always been, you know, you have that relationship and it goes from there. So then when you get into the process of making it, and I do feel like a lot of times you guys are asked about improv in these movies, and Mike always has to say, no, it's not improv. It's not what you think. It's such a specific process. But it's interesting how you're working on your character, but also what you're building with each other. I know you and Michelle Austin had known each other, but not everyone in the cast. So when you're in those, you know, imagining you all in a room sitting in a circle talking about your characters, but also getting to know each other. Is there a way to describe how that part of it works to build the relationships we see?
Well, what happens actually is you only sit around in a group when you're talking about some historical stuff or some running condition stuff of the family, like Sunday dinner. What would that look like? Everybody would be participating in that conversation. And I mean, because you're coming up with this stuff quick fire, there's always things to laugh about or, you know. So you build quite a bond in that way as actors. But we're still very split up and individual. You see, everybody is the lead in a Mike Leigh movie.
Yeah.
You know, so you never actually know what is going on with other people unless your character would know it.
So it's not like you're sitting in there and you're learning about, you know, what your husband or your son would be thinking, that's something that's fascinating.
You never find out about what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Only what they have said to you in your presence or that you've overheard being said.
So even though you're building that bond as yourself, not as Pansy, your point of view is limited in some way by what the character is going to be. That's fascinating. But I think you said that Mike said that, you know, you don't know what the story is going to be, who's going to be the lead, that we wasn't going to have you relocate out of Los Angeles for a few months if it wasn't going to be major. Was that the deal?
Yeah.
How did that feel as a homecoming? I mean, you've worked in the U.S., you've come back to the U.K. to do plays, to do theater recently, but, you know, to go back and work on a movie like this, was it a kind of a welcome moment of homecoming? Did it feel like the right time for you?
Oh, yeah, it felt perfect.
Yeah.
It was really, really good. Yeah, it felt like the right time. I remember our first day of rehearsals, just me and him, and we had a cup of tea and we just sat there kind of like, you're here. It was lovely.
Was it one of those moments where time kind of folds on itself and you think, God, 30 years ago we were doing this and then here we are back?
Yes. Yeah, as Michelle Austen likes to say, we've gotten older and wider.
I mean, on Secrets and Lies, you were the person who was new to the process. You know, you're so soon out of drama school. So when you returned to make a Mike Leigh movie, having had experience with it, does it feel different than the first time you do it? Do you feel like you can share lessons with people who are new to the process, or is it always just brand new when you jump in?
It's kind of brand new. I mean, jumping back into it, you've got to remember the years in between what you've been doing. And you kind of have to get back into working in that way where you feel completely and utterly free. And in order to be free, you've got to really trust the director.
Yeah.
You know, so you've got to let go and trust him again.
Yeah.
Oh, bloody hell, what's he going to do this time? So that was that, because, you know, you've been doing sort of formulaic stuff for a number of years, and it's like, oh, no need to self-direct.
What does self-direct look like when you've worked in a lot of different things? You don't have to name things by name, but how do you learn how to do that for yourself? You know, when you're moving on, you're taking projects, you're a working actor. How do you figure that out?
Well, you have to have your own standard. I mean, you have to kind of go, this is how I'm going to work. This is how I work. And I'm always going to go for the truth in something, all authenticity, and do my research and my background stuff, because you know, it's not necessarily required. And sometimes you're on set with directors that are just like happy to let you just get on and do what you do. And they're not to say that they're bad directors or what have you. It's just that they work in a very different way. They're focused on the setup, the shots and all that sort of stuff. And they think, I'm going to hire actors who know what they're doing.
Sure.
And let them do it. And so you just go in there and do your thing.
Is that part of learning how to, you know, step onto a TV show for a day or for 2 days, about being fit into something? Is doing that prep work what makes that work and lets you keep getting offered jobs like that?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I do a mini version of the process that I learned from Mike on all the stuff that I do.
Yeah.
You know, just to keep it rooted in some kind of reality. Make the character grounded, you know.
Are you ever on set with somebody who's like, wait a second, you did all of that? I just learned my lines in the trailer 5 minutes ago.
A number of times.
Yeah.
Been with people who are just like, oh gosh, I just learned it. Good for you.
Well, is that what keeps it, you know, when you make a career as a working actor, like you're choosing to do all kinds of different things, you know that part of the work, is that what keeps it interesting and exciting and makes you not want to, I don't know, do something else?
That's what keeps it interesting for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the most interesting aspect of the work, you know, doing that little bit of prep.
Having that person in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've worked in television for a long time, and, you know, mostly in the U.S., and TV has changed a lot for, you know, those of us just watching it from the outside, the kinds of shows that are getting made, where they're getting made. You've made, you know, some of these shows on streaming services that never would have been made 20 years ago. Has that been a challenge for you in a good way? Like, has that kept it more interesting for you? Are things more interesting that are coming your way than they might have been 10 years ago?
No. Not necessarily. I think it does keep it interesting, though, in general, for everyone, that there are these different platforms to be able to create different kinds of work. Do you know what I mean? It's like, would there be a Succession on a terrestrial TV set thing? No, they'd have a version of it, but they wouldn't have been able to dig in much as they can do with one of the cable outlets.
Yeah. Well, it's just so famously hard to get anything made, and there's more television than film in general. So there's a way that you can just like celebrate it getting to exist at all. When I mean, I'm sure you know plenty. Like Mike Leigh has talked so much about how hard it is to get his movies made at this point. So when you get the chance to do the work at all, it's a reward in some way. I mean, Mike had been very frank about Hard Truths and trying to get it to play at festivals. Did he loop you in on any of that? Did you know that there was kind of this question of how this movie would be seen at all?
Not really, you know.
Yeah.
I do my job and then I'm like,
even on something like this that you're so...
Only when you need me. I think we're both kind of very laid back in that way. And I was just like, I knew that it was going up for certain festivals and stuff. Just call me when it gets in, or if it gets in, if it doesn't get in.
Yeah.
You know. So I was very chill about it because I honestly feel that if things land where they're supposed to land.
Do you feel like that's something you had to learn over time of having this career of letting go of something when the time for it came?
Yeah, definitely. Over the years, you have to. Otherwise, you just get eaten up by it.
Do you remember when that lesson stuck for you?
Probably back in 1997.
After Secrets and Lies?
Secrets and Lies, just, okay, this is how it works.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Well, and, you know, when you know other fellow actors, like, I assume that's something you can help each other with, right? Like, if you know people who are going through this process, you know how many ups and downs there are. Is that just something you figure out from your fellow actors quickly, that there's no...
Yeah, it is fairly. And I mean, different people have different approaches to it. Some people chase it the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, and I think all power to them. I think I've found my creative outlets in different places. So going back to paint, as soon as I've got a break, do you know what I mean? I'm gonna do that. I'm going to, you know, whereas I think some people, it's all they have.
Yeah. I think you said you did cooking also while making this movie. Is that a creative outlet or just like I want to...
It's a creative outlet, cooking. But it's like, it's just something that she hated doing it.
Pansy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was something that I could go back to the apartment and just go, where shall I start shopping? You know?
What kind of mess can I make in my kitchen?
Yeah.
Too? But you also said, I think, that running took you out of the character too much.
Oh, totally.
That's fascinating.
I couldn't understand it, man. I'd run before rehearsals and I'd go over and we'd do like an exercise and I'd be like, oh my God, I just can't. I feel too good. You know? And then I thought, oh, mate, it's the endorphins. I better stop.
There's something also about Pansy, right? There's like a coiled energy. Like if you get your energy out by running, it feels like then she's not there within you.
No.
Well, Secrets and Lies was such a early part in your career and such a an outlier for anyone's career. Like the attention that a movie like that gets. You're sort of back in that space now. You're going to these events. You've got people coming up to tell you how much they love your movie. How different does it feel this time around? Do you get a sense of the world of these award season things having changed? Does it just feel different because you're different?
I think it's a combination of all of the stuff. I mean, the first time we had no clue what we were doing. We were just doing publicity for the film. We didn't know anything about a awards campaign. It's like, it was so alien.
Yeah.
Whereas this time, I'm being made aware of it. Oh, we're going to do an Academy, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
This and this. That. I mean, the great thing is I love the movie.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of it. And so I can talk about it for hours. Poor people.
Well, it's interesting, because you and Mike have done interviews together too. And he'll, sometimes someone will ask a question and he'll be like, no, that's not what it is at all. But he'll really try to talk it through. But talking about how you work it's not a natural thing. It's a hard thing to figure out. So how has that been for you, talking about your work in this way for the first time in a while?
It's actually been really good because you have a chance to analyze it yourself and you discover new things about it whilst doing that.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed sort of like talking over the process and sort of saying, that's what's happening at that. It's like people talk about improv and I'm like at pains to say, it's not like he doesn't say, you're in the kitchen and da-da-da-da-da. Go. It's not like that. It's like we don't even open our mouths for like 2.5 months.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like in character. We open our mouths discussing what this character would do and say and what she would this and that. But to actually be in character, there's so much work that's gone in, so much programming before you say that this is an improvisation.
Yeah.
It's a bit more than that. I'm wondering if we can find a new word to describe.
I feel like there's words in the theater, right? That like devising things in the. I know that the way that theater works and the way that a movie works aren't really the same, but it does feel like having a root in theater gives you some kind of framework for understanding how these movies work. And you and Mike and Michelle had all worked together in theater before Secrets and Lies, right?
Before Secrets and Lies.
Wow. Yeah. So what kind of base did that give the three of you to start this whole process again from?
We just play off each other really well, so it was like.
You have like a shared language there.
Shared language. Mm-hmm. So a lot of laughter in creating the Deacon family and the Montgomery family.
Yeah.
And
these two, I mean, even the households, like you guys figure out together what everyone's houses look like.
I mean, Pearl, the mother, was very real for us. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember the day that we were in rehearsals and Mike gave the bad news that Claire wasn't answering her phone and and we had to work out the scenario between us. And when he killed her off, Michelle and I were so upset.
Had there been an actress playing her, or was it just you had just talked about her enough?
Just imagined her.
Yeah.
All her habits, everything. We'd created everything about Pearl. So when she died, it was like,
how dare you, Mike?
I was so upset. I was like, oh, that bastard.
That's why you have a long-standing relationship, so you can move past betrayals like that.
Yeah. All the betrayals. We actually went for a drink after work, myself and Michelle.
That's like the scene of the girls in the bar in the movie where they go and talk about all the terrible things that happen at work. It's the...
Yeah. Well, that's what we were doing. He's awful. Is it the budget?
I was talking to some friends who were at the Gotham Awards, which was last night as we were speaking, and it does seem like you and Mike going to some of these events together, like it's a, not like you're going into battle together, but there's a lot of joy to be had in kind of going through this journey together, it seems.
Yeah, definitely.
It always seems like he doesn't totally know why any of this nonsense is happening. But
that's him. He's like, just come on.
Just go and get on with the work. It seems like the attitude.
Yeah.
So then when you've gone through, for the second time, going from making a Mike Leigh movie to going back to work and being a working actor, how is that transition? Do you take things with you? Do you try to keep that spirit with you in some way? Or is it always just get back to work?
No, I always sort of apply the work. I always base my characters on a real person and then work out from there, creating the details and the histories.
Yeah. Do you have any sense of, it's early into when Hard Truths has been seen. A lot of people haven't seen it yet, but of the, things being different things coming your way, different doors opening anyway. Not yet? I guess again, you just have to put one front in for the other and do the work just like you did last time.
That's it.
It sounds like a really smart way of living to me.
Yeah.
This show is edited by Brett Fuchs and co-produced by Brett Fuchs and me. Our theme music is by Dave Gonzalez. Thanks again to my co-host and Substack Live experimenting partner, Esther Zuckerman. If you want to hear more from us on Substack Live or have any feedback for us, please, I'd love to do it again and don't know a lot about it, so we're learning. Email me, Katey@theankler.com. Tell me what you think. You can get the Prestige Junkie newsletter by going to theankler.com and subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, where you can watch a video version of these conversations, or on Apple or anywhere else you get your podcasts. We will see you next week.